just try to get out there, believe in yourself as well. I believe one of the things that held me back from just going straight to law school was that I didn't believe in myself that I would take it. I had what it takes to be an attorney. So I tried to go other routes first, but just believe in yourself. And I'm a big believer now that if you put in the work, that you'll eventually get the results that you.
Hey Javier, welcome. I'm so happy to be able to talk to you today. So you were my student in 2017, and a lot of students back then wanted to go into law. We're in a sociology department with a lot of criminal justice majors. You were one of those, and you were one of the few who actually made it all the way through and are currently an associate attorney at law. So congratulations on that, and you've made some pretty big strides in the short number of years, since you're in the classroom. So first, I'd just love to hear a bit about the current job you have and, how you got that.
Well, thank you for having me, Dr. Davis. I appreciate it. I did graduate in 2017 from Point Loma. I did not have a clear-cut direction on what to do, but I knew that I wanted to work somewhere in the criminal justice system. One of my majors was sociology with an emphasis in criminal justice. Towards the senior year of college, I started panicking a little bit just because I didn't have a plan.
Right.
I did take a year off. I worked at a hotel, and then that's when I started to explore my options in the criminal law field. I tried to be a sheriff. I passed all the tests, and I was right up to becoming the sheriff when I really thought to myself that it's not what I wanted to do. So I pursued another venue in the legal field. I was able to find a job as a receptionist in a law firm. It was a personal injury law firm, but they knew my plans of eventually going to law school, and they gave me a lot of work to do, like try to see the day-to-day of the legal field. So it gave me a better idea. I started studying for the LSAT there, and luckily I was able to get a good enough score to be accepted into the law school that I wanted to go to within the year. So I started law school. I went to Cal Western. I wanted to stay local in San Diego. Went there from I have family here. All my friends are here. We have great beaches. Went there from 2018 to 2021-ish. It all got a little blurry with the COVID.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I still believe that I wanted to do the criminal justice field. I had a lot of internships with the San Diego DA, with the public defender. I tried a little bit of property law too, just in case I didn't stick with criminal law. I eventually did not stick with criminal law just because I had some moral issues that I have with myself and the criminal justice system. Right after law school, I found myself a little without a plan again, just because my plan of the criminal justice system didn't work out. So I took a job in LA. It was the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. There I practiced eviction defense. I had a brief experience with my time in the property law, but this was a more specialized area where I was defending people that were being evicted. And it was something that I was able to learn just with templates, that area of law, just try to learn it all. I stayed there for about a year, and then I moved to where I'm at now. I practice insurance defense. So it's also a very specific federal act called the Defense-Based Act, where we used to hire a lot of overseas security guards to provide security for our army back when we were in Iraq, Afghanistan, early 2000s. And now we have these security guards, these claimants that are making claims against my client, the insurance company, and we are defending those claims.
Okay. And so quite a journey. So when I look at your LinkedIn, it looked to me almost like you knew what you wanted and you pursued it. And it was like you interned in a legal related kind of locations. You were the receptionist at a law firm. Were you a paralegal at some point, or did you?
Not the official title, but they gave me the paralegal work at that law firm before law school.
And then law school, and then a couple of roles as an attorney. But what I'm hearing from you is that it was a little more circuitous than the LinkedIn page might, sometimes make something look.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions on that sort of pathway. How long did it take, and how did you prepare for the LSAT? That's big on students' minds thinking of going this route.
Yeah, for the LSAT, I'm not sure if it took me 2 or 3 times to get a score that I wanted. Just like any there's a certain score. I forget how much the scores are, but there's a certain score that's good enough to get in. But I wanted a higher score to try to get some scholarships because
Sure.
it's not cheap. So I remember for the first time I tried to study by myself, I got the LSAT book and I was not that successful. So then the second time I got a tutor and then I just relied solely on the tutor. So yes, I did take it 3 times because the third time I also did the tutor, but then I completely focused on I did a work outside of the tutor as well. So just for me, what worked was the repetition. And I found out that this is what works for me, even in the law school exams, even in the like for the California bar.
Yeah.
Just taking a bunch of practice tests, the repetition, getting used to it, just learning the rules of the test. It's not the material's not rocket science, it's just knowing the rules of the test, the time constraints, everything like that.
Got it. How would you recommend students best prepare? Like get someone right away, like a tutor or a
Yeah, for again, I think it varies with everyone. I know that my law school my law school friends that are now attorneys as well, they had different methods. They could have just done it by themselves. So just try it out. If it doesn't work, definitely get someone. Don't try to be stubborn. So,
yeah.
oh no, I'm gonna make it work by myself. Like it's gonna
Because you get to pick it again,
what's
right?
that?
Is there a waiting period between how often you can take it?
Yeah, before it used to be every 3 months, and it's you could sign up for them. I know that they're changing some of the rules now. I'm not too sure, but you could retake it.
Take it. Okay. What did you find the LSAT or the bar more difficult?
The bar was more difficult just because you don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did take that twice as well, and then we could get to that later, but it's just a list of types of areas of law that might be on it or not, and it's 2 different components, multiple choice and essays, so you just don't know what you're gonna get.
Right. So be pretty broadly prepared for that.
Yeah.
So how long after you graduated did you start law school? I think you said you took, was it a year off or a little bit more than that?
Yeah, just a year. So again, that wasn't my plan. I didn't have a plan, but anything that I did, like I wanted to not have any time off, just go straight to school. But luckily I was able to get it sorted pretty quickly after law school, after undergrad when I graduated and found out, oh no, I don't have a plan.
Police officer.
Yeah.
Right. Were you about to go to like an police academy or?
So yeah, so I had passed all of the tests for sheriff, and it was just like it was right before going to the academy when they were going to do the final investigation on me, and that's when I told my superior officer, I forget what it's called, but I'll say this is not what I'm going to do.
Okay.
So it took it did take a little bit of self-reflection, try to figure out what I was going to do. It wasn't.
There's actually a literature on sometimes we don't know what we want, and then when we make a decision, suddenly like our gut like helps it becomes clearer to us. So I wonder if that you're right at that precipice, and then it kind of felt clearer. That's interesting. When you're in law school, are you able to work, or it's pretty much an all-consuming kind of program usually, right?
Yeah, for the first year, it was recommended to me and all of the other students in orientation that you should not work the first year just because it's something you could be the smartest kid in undergrad, but once you're in law school or maybe like any other grad schools, you're full of other smart kids as well.
Right.
So it's something that you need to get used to. The workload is different. Like again, in undergrad, sorry, Dr. Davis, I might be able to cram on an exam and still get a good grade. Like you're not able to do that in law school. So it's just something that you have to really get accustomed to.
Yeah.
During the second and third years, you're able to get more internships, some of them, or externships as well. Some of them are paid, some of them are not. But even if they're not paid, you're getting more of that balance too, being able to work with one of your classes, a different type of workload, and just getting that experience.
And how quickly do you have to pick like a field of law?
I don't know if there's like a set time, just because it's comparable to having a major in undergrad. I know that some of my colleagues went into law school not knowing what they wanted to do. One of them, he believed that he wanted to go into politics, so then he tried to go down the prosecutor road, and that was probably like within the first year. I'm not sure how he's doing now, but it's something that you learn fairly quickly. Even I would just advise to know the earlier the better, just because you have you know what electives to take, what internships to apply to, but it's not a make or break. Me, I had mentioned it, like I was focused on criminal justice, and in the end, it didn't work out for me. And my first job, the job that I'm currently at, it's not related to that. It's something that I had to totally learn brand new, and I've been successful so far.
Okay, so even if you have kind of a specialty in law school, you can still practice other areas of law afterwards. It just takes some reskilling.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I believe that the skills that you develop in law school, if you put in the work, if you were able to research, you do the writing yourself, if you're able to argue, get into some moot court, get some speaking experience, um, those are transferable skills from whatever area of law it might be. But the main one that I would focus on would be the writing, the research and writing, just because even if you want to be in court, you want to be speaking, your argument is based on your writing and your briefs.
Okay.
So that's the most important thing.
So I'm curious about the day-to-day, like, life of an attorney, and I'm sure that varies of different kinds of law and different sizes of firms. But for students, kind of curious, like, you get up on a Monday or a Tuesday, like, how long are the hours? What are the typical tasks? What's that generally look like?
Yeah, in terms of the hours, just because where I'm at, I do the insurance defense. I usually do about 200 a month. Some of my colleagues do that as well. Some of them like do maybe like 160. The day to day,
You're looking
in
at
this,
you're saying like 40 to 50 hours a week, basically.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's they're heavy workloads. It's also there's also a bonus incentive, but I mean there's always going to be the work there that you're going to be able to get those hours in. In terms of the day to day, in my area of law, there it's similar. It's similar to civil litigation. So when the case starts, it's at a lower level, and then the claimant, the person that's filing the claim against my client, they file what's called a pre-hearing statement. It's a pleading called the LSAT, and then that's when it gets referred to the court where we're at, and that's when discovery starts. And discovery, it's something that it's a time period. It usually depends on the judge or the court, but that's when we send questions to the claimant. When they send questions to us, those are called discovery requests. There's different types of those. The point of that is just to kind of get more information on what happened in the claim. I want to know what the claimant has, what injury he is alleging, what treatment he has had, if he has had any, and they want to ask me about any other contracts that my client or the employer might have had similar to them. Also in discovery, we do depositions. So I myself, we always take the claimant's deposition, and it's something in my particular field, it's always like this, just because the claimants are all overseas, so it's always virtual. We do have the court reporter there.
Sorry to interrupt. For those who aren't familiar with the term, a deposition, or when you depose someone, it's basically like an interview about their case or their situation, right?
Yeah, so I asked them questions about everything. And if I send out the discovery, in a perfect world, I would send out my discovery requests, my questions before the deposition, just so I could see if everything lines up, if there's any discrepancies there. That's good for me. That's what I focus on. It also gives me a clue more on what to tell my expert on what to focus on. So those depositions, it is just I would just be asking them questions. The claimant's attorney is there too. The claimant's attorney, his role, his or her role there is just to make objections if I'm stepping out of line in my questioning. There's no judge in the deposition to rule on those objections, so it's just for the record. After that, I have an expert witness. So if the claimant if he is alleging a psychological injury, I will hire a neuropsychologist to have an independent medical examination of the claimant, and then we will go off of that report as well. There's other times where I might depose the claimant's expert, because they also want their own expert aside from their treating providers, or the claimant's attorney might depose my expert witness. So that all happens in discovery. If there's any issues, you usually try to resolve it with the other attorney, the claims counsel. If you can't resolve it, then you do a motion. It's just a favor to the court, getting the court involved. But there's different types of motions that happens, and then after discovery closes, you do another joint pre-hearing statement, which is just a status report. Hey, court, we're ready. We need more time. Whatever happens there, and then in my field, we have live trials and briefs. We do the live trials if the claimant requests it. Again, a lot of these claimants are overseas, so if we do have a live trial, it is virtual like this. I think I'm going to have my first in-person one soon because I do have a claimant that's in the States, so that's exciting. After the trial, I thought that was over. Like you have the trial, you'll get the decision, but no, in my area, you do the trial and then you still do a brief. So that's just the final thing. So it was a long-winded answer, but that's my day-to-day. Whatever happens, I have like over 100.
Sorry, you have over. What were you saying?
I have over 100 cases, so it's just the day-to-day just depends on what like the deadlines are for each case, but it's all from the beginning to the end.
So I was going to say it depends on the stage the case is in, but you have cases in all different stages at the same time.
Yeah.
So on a given day, you might do a deposition for one or two cases and some other, file a motion, or I imagine going to court takes up most of the day on those days, or not necessarily.
Yeah. So a lot of the court time now at my current job, it doesn't take too long. We'll have the court conferences, unless it's the actual hearing, then it will take like the minimum. The shortest trial that I've had is 2 hours, but that's only because we only had the claimant testify. We didn't have any other witnesses.
Okay.
But the longest one, it was about 8 hours.
Okay.
But yeah, in my field, if it's just a conference call, hopefully it'll take 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah. Is your field one where most of the cases settle before going to court, or by the time I guess it's already come to your office, they've had that chance and are not taking it?
Yeah, so my field, we don't settle, just because in this particular area of law, we did have a lot of settlements when these claims were coming in, but my client just they found out that there was suspicious activities going on, and now we're litigating most of these matters. Of course, if we get a bad report from our expert, I'll advise my client, hey, maybe this is one that we should look at to look into settle.
Right, because ultimately they're trying to crack down on possible fraud, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So a lot of varied activities for sure. Do you work with a team, or is it a more solo or collaborative? And if you could speak to law generally for those curious, is it usually kind of a solo sport or a team sport?
I think generally I'm not sure if I could speak to that. I think it depends on the firm. Okay. Where I'm currently at, I'm in a team called the task force, which is any case that's definitely going to trial or going to be briefed. We get it. So this consists of, I think, 14 associates and 2 partners. One of them is my boss. He's a named partner. But the cases that I get, I've been here almost 2 years, so they just give it to me. I do everything. I'll ask them questions if I run into something that I haven't faced, or if I need any help. But mostly, for the most part, it's my style of work. I'll do it myself. I might ask something on the group chat, to the associates that have more experience than me. If they're not able to help me, if I'm not able to find it, then I'll ask my boss or the other partner.
Okay, cool. I heard you mention that you hire an expert witness when needed. Like I think you said a neuropsychologist in that case. Do you have to keep sort of a Rolodex of vendors almost for different specialties? I don't know tons about law, but I could imagine, or do you have like a private investigator on occasion? Do you have different kinds of experts that you bring in? I think some people make exhibit displays for the court. Like, how does hiring and some of those different things work?
Yeah, in terms of investigators, I don't deal with any of that. It's usually my client that has their own investigators. If they find anything that's suspicious or that looks like fraud, they'll give it to me. It's not anything that's going to make or break the case. It's going to be something that I might use as impeachment. But if they have it, of course I'll use it. For the vendors, you
define impeachment in this case?
Yeah, impeachment in this case, it's if I'm able to find a piece of evidence that discredits the credibility of the claimant or the doctor, I'm going to use it. So if the claimant says, "Oh, I worked," if I depose the claimant and he says under oath, which means that he swore to tell the truth. I worked from 2011 to 2013 at this spot. And then my client, they do the investigations and they come back with a report that says, oh, this never existed. That's a discrepancy there. Again, it's not something that's going to make or break the case, but it's something that I'm going to use to attack the credibility. Hey, like he's lying here, he might lie somewhere else.
Sure.
It'll just be something like that. And then in terms of the experts, we work with two different vendors. They just handle everything for us. They'll set up the depositions for us, any depositions that we need, either the claimant or their expert. I'll let them know the injuries that the claimant is alleging, and then they'll find the doctor. I've been here for 2 years. A lot of the injuries they're very similar. So I've worked with a lot of doctors with the same doctors as well. But luckily, I'll just let the vendor know what's going on, and then they'll get it to me. They'll handle everything, the interpreter if needed, the transportation for the claimant, everything like that.
Okay. A full service sort of vendor.
Yes, that's great. Oh yeah, and then in terms of the exhibits, you also mentioned that as well, the trial exhibits. I do that myself. It's part of like my pre-trial process, just because I need to know what I'm gonna. If they do request a trial, I need to know what I'm gonna refer to at the trial, or if it's no trial, it's just straight to briefing. I need to know what I'm gonna cite to for the brief.
Okay, cool. I want to switch to a few of the nuts and bolts of trying to land jobs. So you've had a few. I know in the beginning, you switch more quickly when it's internships and entry level. So what has your process or approach to like applying, interviewing, any kind of nuts and bolts for those thinking of law in that direction?
Yeah, I think it might depend on what stage you're in.
Yeah,
I'm comparing it to myself. That's how I'm thinking right now, my thought process. But before going to law school, so right after undergrad, I applied to this firm just because I was interested in something criminal justice. I just wanted to know how a law firm would work.
Yeah.
So in terms of the application, I just looked for anything that would take me, something that would guide me or kind of shape me into what the legal profession, what a law firm would need. Once I was in law school, I had a better idea of what I wanted to do. And it's just like, again, it's just like a major like in undergrad. If you have a specific area of law that you want to go into, apply to those internships there.
Okay.
Just get that experience. You get a lot of experience in the internships in law school, so it'll give you a pretty good idea of what it might be to be an attorney in that field. And then afterwards, if all goes to plan, you'll like that internship, and then you'll do your post bar. The post bar is just a fancy name for the internship that you do after you take the bar while you're waiting for the results. Okay. And then you'll get a job there. That would be the ideal route. If you go the unconventional route like I did, I just applied to public interest because that's what I wanted to do at first, and that's how I was able to get the job in LA at the Legal Aid Foundation. But in terms of interviewing, just be confident in your skills. Again, if you learn research and writing, if you learn how to oral advocacy, and all these skills are transferable that you could use in any field. You could learn the area of law if you don't know it, which I've done, but it's just that those skills that you need to learn, and you need to be confident. I've told interviewers in the past, like, hey, I don't know anything about this area of law, but I know how to research. I know how to write. I am an oral advocate, and I could learn this area of law, and I could be successful.
And it worked for you. That's great. So in that very first one, I'm hearing that it's staying open-minded about the job you get because you're there to learn the field and kind of pick up. And you were applying in a specific region, so that also kind of narrowed your focus.
Yeah.
Is that common for people who go into law, that they can kind of pick the region, or is it usually easier if they're doing broader searches?
Yeah, well, for me, I knew that I was going to take the California bar. I wanted to stay in San Diego, or at least in California. I ended up moving to LA, but it depends on where you take the bar. I know that there's a multi-state bar. I don't know too much information about that. I know that it's a certain score, and then you're barred in these number of states. So that's also something that would be considered when applying to jobs, but it's not something that I could speak on. It also depends on law school that you're going to. I went to Cal Western. It's one of the top tier schools, but I wanted to stay local, and they were able to give me scholarships. So it was also kind of I have these set of skills, but the name also matters. I got what I took. In the end, you get more experience and you're able to improve yourself as an attorney. But if if you know for sure what area of law you want to go to, and if you know it's a prestige school might help you, then that would be something that you should
Right.
do.
But that does make a difference, is the school. I mean, it's obviously, I suppose,
Yeah.
but okay. You mentioned, getting scholarships, and that's pretty crucial. Law school is not cheap. Anything that you could speak to, how much debt is worth it versus when, if you don't, say a student doesn't get much of a package, just I guess advice for that. And then on the, when you graduate, what kinds of jobs, say somebody has a real social justice heart and they want to do kind of like pro bono work, but they don't have a bunch of a financial aid package, and like, that'd probably create a pretty rough situation. So do you have any advice or insight on balancing the loans and the kinds of jobs you pick and that kind of stuff?
I might not be the best at this or financial advice for investing in anything like that, but something that I took into play is there was two schools that I was interested in San Diego. One of them they accepted me, but they didn't give me any scholarships, and it was a little more prestigious. But I mean, I don't come from a wealthy family, so this was a very important factor. So I chose Cal Western. They were able to at the first year they provided a lot, and then it still adds up. So it's something that you need to take into account too, depending on your financial situation. And then in terms of work afterwards, I I wanted to go into public interest, and that's what I became a lawyer for, and to work in as a prosecutor or in the criminal justice system, something to help the society. And that was my first job as well in the Legal Aid Foundation. But some of those jobs don't pay too much, and you have this debt over here. You got other external factors as well. For myself, I have parents
Diego's
that I
not
need
cheap.
to, yeah. And for myself, I have my parents that I want to help and support.
Yeah.
They're seniors, so that's where I also ended up at my current job, where it's not public interest, but I'm getting a bunch of experience and making a little bit more, where I'm able to live comfortably and take care of my parents. So it's not a direct answer, but I think it's
No,
all
it's all
personal.
factored in. And I think that, finding meaning in work can come from more than one source. So on one hand, some person could say that the mission of this certain legal, aid foundation is where I get the meaning. But somebody else could very, well say like, hey, I'm able to help my aging parents out. That's also a very meaningful opportunity. So I think maybe some folks have this idea that all of our passion and meaning from a job has to come from like the mission statement of the firm itself or something.
Yeah.
It's broader than that. So I hope this doesn't sound like a random question, but I've been, reading or hearing a lot more about the growing impact of AI on different fields. And I sometimes see law as one of those ones that, I think ChatGPT recently scored a really high, the most recent one, like the 4.0 or whatever, scored really high on the LSAT and the bar. Is that at all impacted your day-to-day work, or are there conversations in the field yet?
It hasn't impacted me, personally. I know, I think some of my colleagues at my current job, they might use it I'm not sure if they're to write their briefs or their motions, something like that, or to make a summary of the case law. But it's not something that I use. First of all, I'm scared of AI. I'm not the best with technology to begin with. And I also heard that there was a case where there was an attorney that used that to just write a brief, and it created a case that wasn't real.
Right.
So it's just something that it hasn't impacted me just by choice. Also, if you're not doing it yourself, you're not going to learn. So it's something that I haven't used by choice.
Okay. Okay.
But I know that I do have colleagues that use it. I don't know to what extent.
Right. Right. I mean, I imagine it'll be more prevalent as time goes on, as it continues to improve. Some of those issues with hallucination that you were talking about. So I've like, had it write, pieces always, I hand edit anything it writes, but just to get draft content, and it's hallucinated whole citations of studies that didn't exist. So new versions are getting a little better with that, but interesting to see that it so far hasn't been a major, impact in your work. So in general, like what would be some, tips that you have for students who, maybe they're a junior or a senior, they've been thinking they want to go to law school, or they're not sure, just advice on that last year of college and that first year out of college, which is kind of a rough transition for a lot of folks.
Yeah, the first part would be just to not panic if you don't have a plan. In an ideal world, you know what you want to do from the start, and you have someone to guide you there or give you advice. It's not always going to be that way. Just don't panic. You do the best you can, even if you don't pass the first time. If you don't get the score that you want the first time, you can always retake it. That goes for the bar as well. That goes for any class in law school. So it's first of all, don't panic. Don't get discouraged if everything's not going to plan. The second thing would be just try to get out there, believe in yourself as well. I believe one of the things that held me back from just going straight to law school was that I didn't believe in myself that I would take it. I had what it takes to be an attorney. So I tried to go other routes first, but just believe in yourself. And I'm a big believer now that if you put in the work, that you'll eventually get the results that you.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Did you feel any like imposter syndrome when you're first getting into law school or anything like that? Or by then were you feeling pretty confident?
I think I did. Like I felt very confident going into it, but then as soon as we got the class started, I felt a little bit out of place. But then again, it's on you. You buckle down. You put in the work, and you trust your work. And that's all you have.
No, that makes total sense. Okay, well, gosh, thank you for all of your advice and just explaining what the day-to-day of an attorney looks like. I know that I regularly have many students interested in this path, so I think that was really helpful. Anything else you want to add, or?
That's it. Just again, just believe in yourself. If you have a plan, just stick to it and give it all you got. Thank you, Dr. Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Javier. I appreciate it very much.